Wolfenstein: The New Order came out a couple weeks ago, and if I had anything to say about it, it's that it is pleasantly surprising. Machine Games focused on making a new Wolfenstein game that manages to modernize Wolfenstein without removing what makes Wolfenstein titles. It includes gathering armor, health packs, and ammo. Levels are packed full of collectibles and lore items. There are hidden guns, the techno-Nazis are evil as fuck, and there is plenty of ultra-violence. The level design is more linear than old school shooters, but it has a hell of a lot less corridor segments than Call of Duty or Battlefield campaigns. I dig this game mechanically. Iron sights aren't super important, and you can dual wield almost every gun in this game. You can dual wield sniper rifles, crazy automatic shotguns that fire as fast as you can click, full auto rifles, basically every gun except mounted turrets. The use of health packs and armor instead of regenerating health makes you want to explore the levels, and the less linear design of levels in comparison to that of COD or Battlefield makes it enjoyable. Along with needing to collect ammo, health, and armor, there are also a ton of collectibles hidden in the levels, some of which are really worth collecting, like the alternate pop song recordings, such as German recordings of Beatles songs. Wolfenstein: The New Order is mechanically every other modern shooter, but it has enough old school tendencies like the hidden collectibles, health packs, armor, and limited ammo for me to actually enjoy it, and have to start trying when playing. Hell, the game even has boss battles, like real boss battles, not just a heavily armored unnamed unit. The bosses have solid designs and mechanics even if they are uninspired. Shoot the giant robot laser Cyclops in his laser eye to destroy it, or destroy the power generators powering the bipedal mech's force shields. It's mostly just nice to play an FPS with bosses. It's a rare occurrence since games have moved to the modern military theming. The new Wolfenstein title may be my favorite looking game of the year, and probably my favorite looking shooter of the last few years. It's a grim, dark Nazi-ran world filled with robot dogs, soldiers clad in large dark armor and masked space soldiers and giant cyborg Frankenstein creatures, all of which happen to be Nazis. Enemy designs are great. They're not original, but they look mean, they look intimidating, and they look like evil Nazis, and that is what you want the enemies in Wolfenstein games to look like. I'd say this is probably the best Wolfenstein title as far as character design goes. I also really like the redesigned BJ Blazkowicz. He looks a lot more like how he did in Wolfenstein 3D than his designs in Return to Castle Wolfenstein in 2001 and Wolfenstein in 2009. I think it's important that Blazkowicz should actually look like the Wolfenstein 3D sprite, seeing as Wolfenstein has never actually been rebooted. They're all direct sequels, even if the 2009 release didn't have a subtitle and was just called Wolfenstein. In Wolfenstein: The New Order, you reprise the role of William B.J. Blazkowicz, the same character you've played in every single Wolfenstein to this point. In this particular Wolfenstein, it opens in 1946 with a large Allied invasion of General Wilhelm Death's Head Strauss's island fortress and research laboratory. After nearly killing Death's Head, Blazkowicz narrowly escapes the island, but not without major head trauma. Blazkowicz is found in the ocean and taken to a Polish mental hospital where over the next 14 years he remains stuck in a vegetative state until he miraculously regains his ability to walk, speak, and viciously blow apart techno-Nazi scum. During the 14 years Blazkowicz is out of commission, the Nazis won World War II and took complete control of the world. In this alternate timeline 1960s, the Nazis have developed technologies well beyond our own timeline. The Nazis have high-security lunar research bases and cyborg Nazi Frankenstein creatures and massive panther robots. After Blazkowicz returns to fighting condition, he breaks out his old war buddy from a top-security prison in Berlin and joins the resistance to stop the Nazis and kill Death's Head. There's a choice during the Allied invasion of Death's Head's island fortress where you need to make a choice about which of two squad members has their brain extracted from the back of their head by Death's Head. The choice actually majorly changes the timeline for the remainder of the game and changes a lot of the characters who are members of the Resistance. Playing with a scruffy badass Scotsman as your right-hand man, and having Jimi Hendrix as a member of the Resistance are enticing enough motives for me to play the game a second time around and see the differences in story. I can pretty confidently say I've never really wanted to play an FPS campaign 2 times in a row like this. And as for shooter campaigns, I played twice. It's basically limited to Half-Life 2, and then this Wolfenstein game. So that's a pretty major achievement. Death's Head is a great villain. He's evil as fuck and grotesque looking with all his facial scars and his twisted old decrepit body. Death's Head is clearly the more intellectual, less physically imposing between Blazkowicz and Death's Head, but he makes a great nemesis because of how strongly he contrasts with Blazko. Pretty much all of the characters are interesting, even if many of them end up barely developed. One of the reasons why they may feel safe not doing anything with some of the characters is that almost all of the characters were in the 2009 Wolfenstein, but playing the 2009 Wolfenstein isn't necessary though, since the main story is completely standalone and not related to the 2009 ghost-filled Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein The New Order does a great job at creating its world and building characters, but it suffers from a lack of consistency in tone and purpose. The game at times decides to take a look at the darkness of humanity, such as the stealth level in the concentration camp, but then the game wants to be a sci-fi Nazi escapade in space. It's a huge jump to take from seeing prisoners being tortured and experimented on, to shooting robots in space. It's bizarre because the game seems too smart to be a Wolfenstein game, and then it reminds you it really isn't. Blazkowicz in cinematics and scripted events seems like a real person, and then he delivers cheesy one-liners like, "Wake up, it's time to die," while gutting sleepy Nazis with a knife. I know that Wolfenstein The New Order is better than these kind of lame jokes, and crazy for the sake of crazy, because it shows several times that it is, and yet these sort of holdouts from a time when games didn't have real writers show up. It's disappointing because Wolfenstein, unlike, let's say, Duke Nukem, was never about cheesiness, it was about ultra gore. So the game would still be just as much as a Wolfenstein title without the lame one-liners. The New Order ends up confusing in its tonal shifts, in that you can be left unsure of whether you're supposed to be awestruck by the insanity of the game's world and mechanics, or if you're supposed to be appalled by the New Order's darker, more serious ambitions. The game is probably more enjoyable when you focus on the former, because the game's more serious story elements can't really survive the bizarre, out-of-nowhere tonal shifts. The PC port of the game is really solid, or at least has been in my experience. Wolfenstein The New Order was built on the Intech 5 engine just like Rage, so it gets to make use of mega textures which look good, but my god does it bloat the size of the game. When Rage came out, it was a 20GB game. It was double the size of regular releases back then. Wolfenstein The New Order is over 40GB for textures that really don't look twice as good as games as Bioshock Infinite or Crysis 3, if even better. You don't use Intech 5 if you don't want to make use of the engine's selling points, but the only two games that have used Intech 5 haven't really managed to make a case for mega textures yet, and as a result, haven't justified the massive game sizes. If you live in a place that caps your bandwidth, you may want to look into finding a disc version for your chosen platform, because the game is just so damn big. The other issues this game has are also pretty much related to the Intech 5 engine. It apparently runs pretty badly on AMD cards, just like Rage did. There's a lot of texture popping at times, just like Rage, and VSync is essential, or prepare for boatloads of screen tearing. Also, just like Rage, Wolfenstein The New Order is capped at 60 FPS. It could be worse since there are some games that have been coming out capped at 30 FPS, but it's still a little disappointing nonetheless. I really enjoy Wolfenstein The New Order. I don't think it's Game of the Year status, but I think it's probably the best FPS campaign in years. Mechanically, the game is fun, it looks good, the story is engaging, it keeps good pacing, and the game doesn't overstay its welcome by ending the first run through the campaign at around 8 hours. I've truly thought that the industry no longer knew how to make an FPS campaign, but Wolfenstein The New Order has changed my mind. At the end of the day, Wolfenstein The New Order is a great game and completely worth the purchase if you happen to still hold any value in the AAA big budget shooter. If you don't, you can safely completely ignore this game.